it is perfectly okay to be afraid of things, of new things, of stepping outside of your comfort zone. That's just inherent in human nature. Be afraid, but do it anyway. That is so incredibly important for engineering, for other things outside of engineering, just in life in general.
Hi, I'm Emma Zareen, your host and a 16-year-old engineering student, policy enthusiast, and hopeful future STEM school survivor. Welcome to She Persists. Before we dive in, I just want to take a second to say how grateful I am for each of you. Every listen and every bit of support genuinely means the world to me. When I started She Persists, it started as a little dream to share real stories of young girls in STEM who are challenging norms, finding their place, and inspiring change. Seeing that idea come to life has been so rewarding, and honestly, it's just the beginning. If you've been enjoying these conversations, I'd love for you to be a part of our community by following this podcast. It's one of the best ways to help us grow, share even more incredible stories, and connect with a wider audience. And I hope the conversation doesn't end here. I hope you carry these stories with you and let them be a constant reminder that your voice truly makes a difference. When you think about the next generation of aerospace innovators, Zoe Zlatic is exactly the kind of person who comes to mind. She's a sophomore at the University of Southern California studying astronautical engineering, and she's already done some incredible work in the field. She's completed NASA internships, led a return mission concept to Venus, and conducted research aboard a zero-gravity plane. On top of that, she's currently a design and structures engineer at USC's Rocket Propulsion Lab. And this upcoming spring, she'll be heading back on another zero-G flight, this time to test her RPL team's reaction wheel system. In this episode, Zoe shares how her passion for space took shape, what she's learned from taking on ambitious projects, and how she's thinking about the impact she wants to make in the aerospace world. So with that, let's get into it. Here's Zoe Zlatic. So great to have you here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. You've done so many amazing things in the past and are still doing so many amazing things. So I have to start with, what's been your favorite project that you've been working on lately?
Oh, this is a really difficult question because I'm working on a decent amount of projects. I think I would have to say for my rocketry team, the University of Southern California's Rocket Propulsion Lab, I've assembled a small team to build reaction wheels for our payload capsule that is going to be flying on our space shot rocket in the spring. So basically what we're doing is designing, building, and then testing our own reaction wheel system in-house. And then I'm actually going to go fly it on zero-G for a second time. I'm going back on zero-G for a second time to do this research and test our system and see if it works, see how it performs, get some good data back, and then hopefully we'll be able to implement our changes in time for our space shot in the spring.
That's amazing. So is this a club or like an organization at USC?
Yeah, it's a design team. So basically it's a undergraduate. And maybe I think anyone can really join, even grad students. But it's just a student rocketry design team. So we build, manufacture, design, test everything in-house. And then we just shoot rockets up sometimes to space, which is great.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on that opportunity and good luck to you too for that. Is there something that kind of makes it stand out from all the other stuff you've done?
Yeah, I think this is a really cool opportunity that I don't know I would be able to have anywhere else because obviously a zero-G flight is kind of pricey. And so I had to get funding through the department. So last year when I was a freshman in college, I assembled this team and we put together a presentation for the dean of the School of Engineering, basically just asking for money. I didn't know it would come of it. I had a bunch of people warn me like, the university, there's a lot of things financially that are kind of up in the air with all the budget cuts, whatever, all of that. So I went into it with the mindset of we will see what happens. I'm going to try to do this, but I won't be so disappointed if it doesn't happen. And honestly, I was expecting to just for him to say no, that it's kind of out of the scope of the university right now. But we went in, we gave the presentation, it went really well. Dean Yortzos is a great guy to talk to. He was really open to our idea. And then a couple of weeks later, we got an email that was basically like, you have the green light, go ahead with the project. We're going to fund you. So it's really, really cool. It's definitely unique. I'm working with we're sophomores now, but we were freshmen when we started it, who are all in RPL as well. So I don't know. It's a great project working with great people. And I'm still in disbelief that we were able to get funding for it. And now I get to go on zero-G a second time.
I love how, you took the chance and you asked the dean, 'cause
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
sometimes the best projects just come from you really taking that chance and taking that
right.
step. Yeah, that's amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Kind of connecting to that, what first sparked your interest in astronautical engineering? What really got you into that field?
Well, there's a lot of answers to that question for me. My parents both are huge space nerds. Neither of them actually work in the space industry, but they're incredibly passionate about it. So we talked about space a lot. I knew the relative history of the Apollo program and, everything that the US and other countries have done in terms of the space industry. But I think what really got me into it was them showing me Star Trek. I'm outing myself as a huge, huge Trekkie right now. I've been watching Star Trek since I was 7, maybe 8, maybe 9 years old. I don't know. I've been watching since a very young age. I have seen, I think, all of the series. There might be a new one that had just come out that I haven't seen. I watch Star Trek religiously and I really enjoy it. It's my favorite TV series. And I think watching that at such a young age showed me, sure, it's science fiction, but it showed me that we do have a future in space. Even though Star Trek is very like the reality of it and the worlds that they have built is very far off and slightly unrealistic in some ways, it's still the core principles of it are that we can go to space, we can survive there, we can thrive there. My interest was piqued, and I think I was just hooked from that point on.
That's such a fun story, and that's, like,
Yeah,
so nice that, you've kind of grown up with a background of space, and
yeah,
so you
yeah.
grew up around it. So growing up, did you always see yourself, like, pursuing a STEM career or something in space specifically?
Actually, no. I kinda wavered back and forth between a lot of different ideas. In middle school, I actually wanted to be a writer or a journalist or something, some kind of storyteller. My mom is a writer, so I had a lot like, she was a really good role model for me, so I wanted to write, I wanted to do that. And it wasn't really until, honestly, COVID era, beginning of high school, that I started to look at STEM as, like, I could actually do this as a career. I could actually work on space as a career, and that's kinda how it happened.
So then from that in high school, were there any specific things you did, to explore these interests?
Let me think here. I started an astronomy club with my best friend, actually. She's not doing aerospace or anything like that, but she is a space nerd like myself. So we started an astronomy club together. I pursued the SEAS internship first thing whenever I heard about it for the first time. I was like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. It's happening. I'm applying. So I did that. And then obviously there's just kind of a domino effect from that experience. But I think those are the two main things that I did in high school to pursue that interest.
Can you tell me a little bit more about, like, your astronomy club, kind of like what went into that? What did you guys do?
Yeah, so the first big thing that we did was we built a presentation and pitched it to the entire upper school just to get it out there, get our name out there, make sure people were aware of it. Clarify that it wasn't an astrology club because we had a lot of people be like, oh my gosh, I want to study the zodiac signs. I was like, no, that's not what this is. No hate on that, but we wanted to set the record straight for what we were doing. And then at one point, we had a guest speaker come in from a local community college.
Mm.
He came in, just talked about the fundamental principles of the universe, cosmology, gave a really fascinating presentation about that. And then we went outside and he had some telescopes. Actually, no, the school had some telescopes that we sort of dug up from storage and used and looked at some pretty cool objects. And then we had some other side projects. We did a collaboration with the Women in STEM Club and did a presentation on women in astronomy and space who have had a significant impact on the field. That was really fun. I enjoyed that. But yeah, I'd say those were the two main things.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you guys did that for, like,
Yeah.
both the astronomy, getting your guest speaker, and then also the women in STEM
Yeah.
astronomy. Like, that's a really nice way to impact a lot of people. So you mentioned your C's internship. How did you kind of go about applying for, like, places like NASA?
Yeah, I didn't know that Cs existed until I was actually subscribed to the NASA Express newsletter. And so I would just, read through their emails every week when they came through. And then I think they came out on Tuesday. That might be a lie. But one random day I was reading through the weekly NASA Express email and I saw this advertisement for a program called Cs. And I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like everything I've ever wanted in a summer program. This is great. And I was eligible at that time, like age-wise and everything. So I applied and I don't know how I would have. I think it's more popular now. Like, I think it's more online now. But if I hadn't have read through that email, I don't think I ever would have found it or known that it existed or anything. So I guess I got lucky.
Yeah, sometimes the best opportunities come when you're not even looking for them and
Yes. Yeah.
they just kind of pop up. But yeah, which team were you on for C's and what was your project that year?
Yeah. So I actually did C's twice. The first year I got a virtual internship and I was on the asteroid photometry team. It was a really small team. We were from all different parts of the country, so I really learned a lot of valuable skills in time zone translation
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
communicating with people in a virtual workspace. But we picked an asteroid to study and we just learned how to use software and newer technologies to assess its size, its composition, its rotation, its distance from Earth, all of these different properties. And so that was really interesting. And our mentor was great. I loved him. And then the second year, I applied again because at that point in time, I don't know if they're still doing this, but at that point in time, if you had a virtual internship, they let you apply again to try for an on site internship. So that's what I did because I was like, again, the program is great. I want to go on site. I want to be at UT. I want to meet people in person. So I applied. I was fortunate enough to get selected. I was on the Engineer Your World Return to Venus team. So over the course of 2 weeks at UT Austin, a team of 9 other individuals and myself and a mentor, we designed, built, and tested a prototyped Venus EDL, which is entry, descent, and landing mission. It was really cool. It was really fast paced because we had to design a whole system in the span of 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
obviously there were flaws. Obviously we made a whole lot of mistakes, but honestly that's where most of the learning happened anyway. So and again, mentor for that was great. Absolutely fantastic experience. And then through that program is how I got to do zero G for the first time. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying everything that I did with C's.
Yeah, so kind of talking about your zero G flight, I feel like that's a great segue. So your zero G flight was after the NASA Seas internship, but were you pursuing a project that was similar to what you did on site at UT, or were you kind of going in a different direction? What was your experiment for that project?
Yeah, I went in a fully different direction. I started by looking at what we were doing on the Venus team, and I couldn't really, I'm sure there were different avenues and possibilities for that, but I couldn't really see any that piqued my interest of something that I could test from that project in zero G. So I kind of started with centrifuges. I don't know why I love centrifuges so much. I think it's The Martian, Interstellar, a combination of all of these like sci-fi, Star Trek, all of these sci-fi depictions of centrifuges. It's a really cool concept. So I started with, I want to study something with artificial gravity. And then there were a lot of iterations that I went through before I landed on my final design, which was testing water purification in both a microgravity environment and an artificial gravity environment. So I sort of had two. It was the exact same test tubes. I had 6 test tubes, but one of them I just left in microgravity. One I put in a centrifuge that I 3D printed. And what I did was I took this powder, Procter& and Gamble's water purifier of water. If you look it up, it's really not a lot of people know about it, and it's a really, really cool technology. You can take a big tub of dirty pond water, lake water, any kind of water that's contaminated, and you dump in this powder, just a little packet of it, and over the course of 20 or 30 minutes, depending on how big the container is, the water will become completely purified. So it's really cool. It has really good applications in countries that are struggling with water scarcity a little bit. But I wanted to test it in microgravity because the whole concept is that the particles of the powder latch on chemically to the contaminants in the water, and then they're dense enough to sink to the bottom. I was like, I don't think that'll happen in microgravity because how are they going to sink to the bottom
Yeah.
if there's no force of gravity pulling them down? So I tested that in microgravity and then in microgravity, but with artificial gravity through the centrifuge, if that makes sense. Let me know
Oh,
if you have
yeah,
any
yeah.
questions.
That's really cool. So did you have like two separate experiments, one with microgravity and then one with just artificial gravity?
No, they were separate, but it was 6 test tubes with contaminated water, and then the contaminants that I used for the water were Martian soil simulant and lunar soil
Oh, I see.
simulant. So it
Yeah.
was just they were small test tubes. I had some water, I had a predetermined amount of contaminant in them. 3 of them were Martian soil, 3 of them were lunar soil, and then I designed a way to get the powder into the test tubes mid-flight under my control without actually having to open. Basically, there was a magnetic system that, yeah, whatever. I was able to control it when the powder entered the system. And so I got to see how the powder affected the contaminated water under the centrifuge. And then the other system had the exact 6 same test tubes, just copy and pasted basically, but I didn't touch it. I just kind of let it go as a control for my experiment. I put the powder in and then I just let things happen.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's not really something I've ever thought about. I've known the water purifying thing exists, but that's actually a really cool concept in microgravity, how that's connected. But what surprised you the most about working in microgravity, or was it easier or harder than you expected to conduct an experiment?
That's a good question. It's definitely harder. I thought, because I was naive enough to think this, I was like, oh, like it's microgravity. It's fine. It's just going to feel like I'm just lighter. It's not going to feel that different. Oh my goodness gracious. I was so wrong. There's no way that I can properly describe how it feels to be in microgravity. I guess the closest you can get is floating in a pool, but even then, it's just different. And so it's really hard because you have to rework the biomechanics of how you move on a fundamental level, which is it's a lot more difficult than it sounds. Because obviously, we've spent our whole lives walking here on Earth. We grew up like this. We haven't had anything different, any other different level of gravity. So just kind of being thrown into this, quite literally being thrown into this it's definitely something to get used to. It's really disorienting. And for me, I found myself fully on the ceiling of the plane at multiple times, like looking upside down, which is really, really freaky and weird. That's why it's aptly named the Vomit Comet, but nicknamed rather. But it definitely is hard. And I was starting to figure it out near the end. And using the little foot straps on the floor of the plane helps too, because you could just kind of latch yourself into place if you want to do the experiment. But it's definitely a lot. It was a great experience. I loved it. But it is definitely really difficult to do and get used to.
Yeah. Did you have any difficulties like with your experiment because of the microgravity, or did you
Um,
think it all went smoothly?
I, Yeah, I think it went pretty smoothly. I think honestly, my biggest mistake wasn't with the experiment, it was with me because I didn't latch myself into the foot straps like I should have. And so every time, every parabola, we get 15 to 20 seconds of weightlessness and then you're back on the floor. But every parabola of weightlessness, I was flying all over the place. I had my experiment in my hand because it was handheld and it was spinning around because it's a centrifuge. But I was also trying to maneuver and not run into people because there's other scientists all around me on the plane. I'm trying to not get so disoriented because I don't want to get sick, although I did end up getting sick, unfortunately, but it was worth it. There's just a lot going on all at one moment that you have to keep track of. And like I said, I started to get the hang of it, but I think nothing with the experiment itself went terribly wrong, which is good.
That's great.
Yeah.
I feel like getting sick on the flight is close to inevitable just because you're just
Yes, it's a rite of
like
passage.
weightless. Yeah. Yeah. But, so do you think now when you're going on your second zero G flight, do you think you'll be a little bit more used to the feeling, or do you think it's still
I
gonna shock you?
think so. I think it's still gonna shock me a little bit just because I think it would shock anyone a little bit.
Yeah.
But especially, I had no idea what to expect going on that plane the first time. I didn't know how I'd feel. I didn't know how I'd react. I didn't know how to move. But now it's still gonna be difficult because it's a huge change from Earth gravity to just microgravity. But
Yeah, of
at
course.
least I've done it before. So I have the experience. I have the knowledge behind what goes into it and how to move and all of that. I will still be slightly ungraceful. And I have to accept that, but I'll at least be a little bit more graceful than last time.
Yeah. I mean, there's astronauts and it takes them so long to
Yes,
become adjusted
yes.
to the environment. So, yeah, I feel like a couple how long is it? Like 2, 3 hours? Yeah,
Yes,
like you got
the whole flight is 2 to 3 hours, but it's
Mhm.
about 45 minutes is the actual weightlessness portion.
Mhm.
But then within that, it's only about 10 cumulative minutes of weightlessness because you do a parabola. I guess for people who don't entirely know how zero G works, you do a parabola in the sky, and you just kind of quite literally get thrown, but you're falling to the ground inside the plane. So the angle it makes with the horizon is about 45 degrees, plus or minus some. And so the weightlessness part comes when you're pushing over and then at the top, and then when you're coming back down of that parabola shape. And then in between that, you're in hypergravity, so you're laying flat on the floor trying to stare at one point on the ceiling so you don't get motion
Yeah.
sickness. That's when you're coming down, and then you're at the bottom of the parabola and then pulling back up. So that we get 5. It was a little bit different for this flight. There were some things that were changed, but overall, you get 5 parabolas of microgravity with 30 to 40 seconds of hypergravity in between each of those. And then in between every set of 5, you get like 2 to 3 minutes of just a break and just rest. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's really cool. So, kind of going back to C's, what would you say is kind of the biggest lesson, or not maybe lesson, but the biggest thing you really learned or took away from the experience?
Well, that's a difficult question because I learned a lot. This is kind of the stereotypical answer, but it's something that I'm still trying to learn to this day, and I probably will be for the rest of my life. It is okay to fail. In fact, I would argue that failing is better than just everything going right and going according to plan. An example of this is we built our Venus lander system thing, and the last couple of days we wanted to drop test it. So we went to the roof of the building that we were doing research in, which is a 5 or 6 story building. It's decently tall. And we drop tested it, and it entirely just shattered when it hit the ground. And,
No.
we were all disappointed. And we were like, man, I really wish we would have designed this better, done this better. But after we had our moment of sadness and of grief, we moved on and we looked at how did it break? Where did it break? Why did it break? What should we have done better? How can we make changes in the future to this design? Why does NASA do it like this instead of this way? So just, I think going through these different failures, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it hurts. It's not fun, but I think it's really, really important in the long run for learning how to be an engineer and how to go about solving these engineering problems.
I totally agree. And, like part of the reason it is a stereotypical answer is because it's so true. Like so many
Yes,
people can really relate
exactly.
to it.
Right.
So I feel like without failing, there's so many questions that go unanswered about your project or so many aspects of it that you wouldn't really know otherwise if
Right.
you hadn't run
Exactly.
into that problem.
Yeah.
I know really similar things happened for me and my team, and like there were things that we wouldn't have even considered if we
Yeah.
hadn't failed the first
Yeah.
several times. So yeah, I love that answer. But what would you say to maybe a Gen Z or someone who's trying to pursue internships like this or who are looking for opportunities but don't really know how to go about it?
I would say don't be afraid to take initiative and don't be afraid to reach out to people. It can be kind of scary talking to people. I know, I understand that. But really, when you think about it, the worst that can happen is they say, I'm a little bit too busy to talk right now. But honestly, people in this field are really, really nice and they know that it's really hard and they want you to succeed. So reach out to people for advice, ask questions. Don't be afraid to apply for things in the first place. Heck, I applied for C's. I was going up against some of the most insane minds of the country, and I was like, I'm just a girl from the Midwest. I don't know if I can do this. And even more so when I was applying for Zero G, I was like, okay, so we have the best of the best at C's, and now all of them are applying for 4 slots on a Zero G flight. So I think it's really easy in that moment to say, you know what, I'm never going to get this. I should just not even try. And I know that's easy because I've thought about it. Obviously, I think that's a pretty common thought to
Yeah.
have. But I think it's really, really important to just apply anyway. Just see what happens, talk to people, ask your questions. And I know I said don't be afraid to do that. I think let me backtrack on that and say be afraid to do it, but do it anyway. Because I think it's unrealistic to say like don't be afraid to do something because fear is an inherent part of what we're doing. But
Yeah.
the important thing is that you just do it anyway, regardless of how scared you are of it.
Yeah, I think such an important thing to keep in mind is that everyone's here to help, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They've all been through the same struggles. They've all been at that point of hesitation where they're like, should I ask? Should I not ask? How do I do this? But yeah,
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the biggest thing is everyone wants to help you succeed. So
Yes,
it's just
exactly.
important to really go reach out for those steps. So, where have you found the most support when you're pursuing these STEM endeavors or these new projects and stuff like that?
I think here at USC, just kind of in my classes, I've just inherently met a bunch of really cool people. I've met a bunch of really cool girls who are also in engineering, also going through all of the, stereotypes of women in engineering and dealing with all of that. Here at USC, it's actually really great because we have 50-50 gender parity
Mm.
within the School of Engineering, but in 97% of places, I would say that is not the case. USC is a very special case for that. But I think just in classes, talking to people at RPL, the rocketry design team that I'm on, we're all passionate about this one thing. And so we all bond over it. And now I have this great group of friends that I know I can talk to anything about. I can talk to them about engineering things. I can go to them for, if I'm having trouble with a homework problem, or if I have a question about anything engineering related, but also things outside of that. Because we've bonded over engineering, which is such a hard subject and challenge to tackle. Now, we can also talk about other things and just have a good time together, have a good laugh. So yeah, I think just people are there. People inherently want to have friends and be friendly.
Yeah.
And it can be scary to talk to people. I've said this before, but do it anyway. It's such a gain in the long run to have a core group of friends that you can go to and you can trust. So yeah, just look anywhere and everywhere. People want friends, so you will find friends. Don't worry. Don't worry.
So at USC, you said you're on the RPL team, but what
Yes.
is there anything else that you're still looking into exploring during your undergrad that you're excited about, or something that you are pursuing right now, like research or anything like that?
Yeah, so I think RPL takes up a lot of my time, which I spend a lot of time there, and I wouldn't have it in any other way. But I've also been doing some things sort of on the side. I'm part of SWE, which is the Society of Women Engineers, or rather the SWE chapter at USC. So I go to their meetings every once in a while, which is really good. They have study sessions, guest speakers. They had a conference, or maybe that was Women in Engineering. I don't know. There's 2 societies on campus that I'm part of for women in engineering. But one of them had a conference last semester that was just for women and non-binary people in engineering. And it was just one day here on campus, but it was really cool to go and talk with other people, other girls in the field, and then also hear from a keynote speaker and then some other speakers off to the side as well. They gave some really great advice. I got to meet a really great group of people. So that was really, really cool. But I do that. I participate in that every once in a while. Also, Viterbi is the name of the School of Engineering here at USC. So as a VSA, I get to just represent Viterbi in a bunch of different ways. I make content. I do panels, so I get to yap to families, which I actually love so much. It's great. I think those are the 2 main things. There's definitely a bunch of research opportunities that I might look into next year, maybe senior year too. There's a Space Engineering Research Center at
Oh,
USC, SERC.
nice.
They do some really cool stuff. They've sent things up to the ISS before. So there's definitely avenues for research. It's just about whether or not I have the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where the wind takes me. But yeah, that's what I'm up to for now anyway.
Amazing. Well, I guess kind of tying into that really big question, but where do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now, or is that still kind of wide open?
I think there's a lot of different things that could happen. As of right now, in an ideal world, I would be working for a space company of some kind. I really want to work for VAST. They're a startup building the next commercial space station that's going to ideally replace the ISS when it gets deorbited in 2030-ish. And they're doing really, really cool work. And their ultimate long-term goal is to build a centrifuge space station. So tying back to everything that I've talked about, it would just be a dream come true to be able to work on that because that'd be a really cool full circle moment. But really, any space company. Axiom is another one that I really like. I'm open. I'll pretty much go anywhere for the most part. 10 years, that's more 5 years. 10 years down the line, I actually want to be an astronaut. So ideally, I would be at NASA training as an astronaut or a commercial astronaut too. But I think my sights have been set on NASA for a while and they will continue to be set on NASA. That would be, in an ideal world, that's really the long-term goal in my life is to go
And
to space.
you'll already have experience with 0G.
Yes,
You're
perfect.
halfway
This is
there.
great. Literally,
Yeah.
NASA, call me up right now. I'm ready to go up.
Well, good luck to that. You
Thank
definitely
you.
got that. Can't wait to see you in space one day.
Yes, I'll send a selfie. I'll give you a shout out.
So, kind of looking back on everything so far, all your projects, the 0G flight, what's one thing or one moment that kind of really sticks with you that you'll keep taking with you through all your future projects, all your future endeavors, and that's really gotten you to where you are today?
I think I need to just reemphasize this point. Be afraid. It is perfectly okay to be afraid of things, of new things, of stepping outside of your comfort zone. That's just inherent in human nature. Be afraid, but do it anyway. That is so so incredibly important for engineering, for other things outside of engineering, just in life in general. It's really scary. I've done a lot of things outside of my comfort zone. I applied for C's, I applied for 0G, I moved halfway across the country for college, and I'm really close to my parents, so I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this is gonna go. And I was really scared, but I did all of those things anyway, and it worked out really well for me. And sometimes it doesn't for people, but it's never the end of the world, and you can always go back and fix it and change things however you want. But it's just so incredibly important to go for it and just take your shot. Just take your chance, right? Like, the worst
Yeah.
thing that can happen is they say no or you get rejected, and sure, it stings for a little bit. But in my opinion, it is so much better to have that than to just be sitting there wondering, oh, well, what would have happened because I didn't apply
Yeah.
in the first place. So be scared, but do it anyway. It's really important.
Totally agree with the point that you just made. For me personally, I know it's not the same for everyone, but I would rather know that I gave it my all than, sit back and wonder 5 years from now, like, what could have happened if I had taken that
Right.
chance. So,
Exactly.
I guess really similar to that last question, if you could go back and give a piece of advice to your younger self, maybe back when you were first starting out in the field or more recently, what would you say?
I would say everything's going to work out in the end. Everything's going to be fine. Things might not work out exactly how you expect it to. Heck, I didn't know I would end up at USC doing rocketry, sending rockets to space. I didn't know I'd get to go on 0G senior year of high school. I didn't know any of that would happen, but I'm a very forward-thinking person. I think about the future a lot, and I stress about it a lot, and it's something I'm working on. But I think if I could talk to my younger self, I would just say, everything's going to work out. Everything is going to be fine. You might be worried about that math test or that English essay or what colleges you're going to apply to in the future or what have you, but everything is going to work out in the end, and you will be fine. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. I feel like that's such a great note to end on. It kind of like wraps everything up and ties everything together and gets the really big message across, try your best. Things will work
Yes.
out, everything. Something that I live by is everything happens for a reason. Like you will end up where
Yes,
you're meant to end
exactly,
up. So,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, I've had an amazing conversation with you. Thank you so much. I've loved hearing about everything you've done and good luck
Awesome.
for your future as well. You're going to be an astronaut one day.
I'll see you up there.
Yeah. So just thank you again for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, perfect, of course, I'm more than happy to. This was a good time.
Once again, I'm your host, Emma Zareen, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the She Persists podcast.